Second section of the syllabus is managing marketing teams. This is the largest part of the syllabus, with a 40% weighting to reflect the importance of the management of marketing teams for the overall performance of the function. Focus is on improving the teams through people. We're looking at building those effective teams. We're starting off with understanding the difference between leadership and management, key importance for students to understand on that. We're moving to developing the teams through recruitment and development practices to build effective teams. It's making sure we end up with a synergistic, harmonious team that operates effectively across the whole of the marketing requirement. We're looking at planning and coordinating the work of the teams, building teams, potentially using international teams, virtual teams, which is something that many students might not have experience of, but is important for them to understand. And we'll finish off this section looking at managing conflict, handling difficulties within the team, overcoming those conflicts to use it to build more effective teams. Overall, it's about building and maintaining an effective marketing team that will be able to deliver upon the marketing objectives and improve the performance of marketing. So, to look in a bit more detail, this section starts with comparing and contrasting the difference between leaders and managers. It's very important that students understand that difference. It's something that maybe hasn't been as clear in the past as it should have been, so we want to emphasise that. We need to look at the different styles of leadership, the different ways that leaders need to be able to operate, comparing and contrasting those styles, and looking at the impact of those styles upon the effectiveness of the team, how that affects the way that team will operate. You may be able to use examples from sports teams, often provide good examples of good leadership as opposed to management. And potentially even politicians can create an interesting discussion point in terms of this, as well as obviously using the examples of the business leaders and the leaders of the organisations your students work for. Moves on to looking at establishing high-performance teams, building synergistic teams, utilising some of the frameworks discussed in section 1 for creating the right structure for marketing. And in this section we introduce the very important concept of understanding the competencies required within the team. Again, this is relatively new at this level and something that students haven't necessarily had a good understanding of previously. So the utilisation of competency frameworks, looking at particular roles in terms of those competencies, and exploring what is required for an effective marketing team to build upon that. This section also looks at the recruitment process. Now, it's an area of concern because there's a lot of issues in terms of employment law. We're not expecting the students to become experts in employment law, especially on an international basis where there's so many variances. It's so that they have an understanding of where to get the information, the implications of that law, and of course compliance with employment law, but utilising the correct recruitment and development skills to ensure that they do get effective teams to deliver on the marketing requirements of the organisation. The section also looks at planning the work of the teams, dividing up the roles of those teams, and ensuring effective working through key performance indicators, SMART objectives, to be able to cascade the corporate objectives and strategies through the marketing department to deliver against those corporate requirements. Students need to understand the key people management tasks to develop the teams through the people, looking at communication, running team meetings, the delivery of these key management tasks that are required there. Of course, we move on to include motivation, looking at the theories of people like Hertzberg to motivate the team, to ensure we get the best performance as possible from the team of the marketing function, and the manager has to be responsible for that motivation and development. Another really key area for this one, which is becoming a more important requirement in many organisations, is the management of virtual teams. In lots of organisations now, the marketing department is spread internationally or even just nationally with people working remotely. Students may well not have the experience of working in these types of organisation, but they do need to understand how they can actually manage those remote teams, and particularly if it becomes international, understanding the cultural differences. And areas like Hofstede's cultural dimensions is something that really needs to be considered and looked at for the students to ensure they get the best from the virtual teams and how to manage on that kind of a basis. Final part of this section is handling conflict and managing performance appraisals and developing people through these activities. As a suggestion here, students hopefully will be working through their assessment by this stage, and we could maybe put the students into groups of 3 so that they can critically evaluate each other, one person giving feedback, one receiving and one observing the process, so that they can all experience those activities, but based on the actual work that the students have done to date in terms of that. Throughout the tutor resource pack, we've included some case studies and examples that can be used for all of these areas of this module, and encourage you to look at those. But of course, develop your own materials and utilise those to have group work and role plays throughout this section.